We needed it more than you. His words still echo in my mind. I froze, staring at the man who had just emptied my account, smirking like he hadn't just destroyed my entire life. My name is Madison Hayes. I'm 32, and I built my online handmade jewelry business from the ground up. That $95,000. It wasn't just money. It was my future, my dream, my freedom. And now it was gone. I had trusted him. My sister's husband, Derek, the charming, polished, perfect family man. Only, the truth? He was a snake, and he had just proven it. 2 hours later, the police were at the door. But before I got there, let me take you back. Back to the moment when I thought our family reunion would be a joyful gathering. Not the night my life got turned upside down. Growing up in Denver, I was the responsible one. My parents ran a small bakery, the kind everyone in the neighborhood loved. My younger sister, Olivia, was the free spirit, always chasing adventures, parties, and dreams bigger than reality. Me? I saved every tip, every extra dollar, every single coin I could. After college, I worked 3 grueling years in corporate retail, just scraping by. But finally, I took a leap. With $5,000 in savings, a laptop, and a heart full of ambition, I launched Haven & Covenor, my boutique jewelry business specializing in ethically sourced gems. The first 2 years nearly killed me. Long hours, ramen dinners, reinvesting every penny. But slowly, I built something real. Then, tragedy struck. A car accident claimed both my parents. I threw myself into work to escape the grief, while Olivia drifted, struggling to find herself. When the estate settled, Olivia and I each received $60,000. I put mine straight into Haven & Co., planting the seed for a future I had fought so hard for. Olivia. She met Derek at a charity gala, and 6 months later, they were married. I hated him from day one. Slick hair, flashy watch, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He made me feel small, like my dreams were cute but meaningless compared to his real-world investments. By the time the family reunion rolled around, I had finally secured enough to open my second location. The $95,000 sitting in my account was for renovations, inventory, marketing, the future of Haven & Co. I was excited, proud, and completely unaware that Derek had already decided he wanted it. The lake house. Our family's retreat for generations seemed perfect that Friday afternoon. Cousins running around, Olivia giving me a tight hug. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I heard Derek before I saw him, bragging loudly about a surefire real estate flip that would triple anyone's money. I smiled, tight-lipped. Actually, I'm expanding. Just signed a new lease downtown, I said. He scoffed, clearly unimpressed. That night, I went to my room to check emails. Something felt off. My laptop wasn't where I left it. Slightly tilted, cord plugged into a different outlet. My stomach sank. I logged in, scanning browser history, clean. But then came the alert. Failed login from an unrecognized device. My heart pounded. Someone had tried to access my account while I was helping prep dinner. The next morning, chaos. My business partner, Clara, called frantic. Madison, your vendor payment bounced. Insufficient funds. I checked my banking app. $0. Zero. Every dollar gone, overnight, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. And there he was, Derek, sipping coffee like it was another ordinary morning. I held up my phone, voice hollow. Derek, my account. $95,000 gone. The room went silent. Olivia stared at her coffee. My cousins gasped. My uncle froze mid-sentence. And Derek? Calm. Smug. We needed it more than you, he said, leaning back in his chair, crossing his arms. I felt the room close in. Betrayal tastes bitter, sharper than any heartbreak. Only I wasn't about to let this slide. I looked him in the eye, voice steady. Then you won't mind what comes next. Madison Hayes wasn't just a dreamer. I was someone who fought for everything she had, and I was about to prove it. Cousin Emma grabbed my arm, her eyes wide. Only Olivia and Derek stayed silent. Olivia staring down at her latte like she'd lost the will to look at me, and Derek, arms crossed, face unreadable, smug as ever. Have you called the bank? Emma whispered, panic creeping into her voice. I did. On speaker, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. The bank rep's voice crackled through the speaker. Clinical, calm. like delivering bad news was routine. Yes, Ms. Hayes. Multiple transfers occurred between 11:37 p.m. and 3:45 a.m. from a recognized device. The password and security questions were entered correctly. My stomach dropped. Recognized device. That meant someone inside, someone who had access, someone who knew me. I locked eyes on Derek. You were near my laptop yesterday. Were you in my room? Olivia immediately stepped in, panic in her voice. Madison, are you accusing Derek? Derek leaned back, smirking, as if the question itself was hilarious. Your sister's paranoid, he said. Maybe your partner mishandled the funds. I clenched my fists. Then show us the bank statements, Derek. If you're so confident, you shouldn't have a problem proving it. His smirk twitched, just slightly. Enough to know he was hiding something. I stepped closer, my voice like steel. No, you would be screaming louder than anyone if you weren't guilty. Olivia trembled. Her hands shook as she refused to meet my eyes. Derek's grip tightened around her waist like she was a shield. My heart broke for her, my sister, my family, trapped, and then he said it. The words that would haunt me. We needed it more than you. The room erupted. My uncle shouted. Emma gasped. Aunt Patricia's face crumpled in tears. And I didn't flinch. I was already moving. I grabbed my bag. Derek lunged, trying to snatch my phone. You're not calling the police, he barked. Back off, my uncle thundered, stepping between us. Emma pulled me behind her. I whispered to Olivia, what's really going on? Olivia's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but Derek cut her off. We're done here. Pack up, leave now, I glared at him. Not until I get answers, and not without consequences. I will have you arrested before you hit the driveway. Derek laughed, dark and chilling. Good luck. That money's gone. Moved. Buried. You'll never see it again. And then, the bang! The front door exploded inward. Police. Guns drawn, commanding, serious. Everyone stay where you are, an officer yelled. Following her, a plainclothes detective flashed her badge. Madison Hayes? She asked. I nodded. I'm Detective Harmon with Denver PD. We received alerts about suspicious transfers linked to your accounts. Derek went pale. This is a misunderstanding, he stammered. Evidence says otherwise. Harmon cut him off. Cybersecurity traced every transfer. Device IDs, IP addresses, and your face, Mr. Carter. I handed over my phone. Last year, I had installed security software, something that took photos of login attempts, logged keystrokes, and tracked device access. The software had every timestamp, every action Derek had made. Derek froze, mask slipping. You set me up, he yelled. No, I protected myself, I said calmly, like I was delivering the final verdict. The officers cuffed him. Derek shouted at Olivia. You think you're safe? You're nothing without me. Olivia stepped forward, voice shaking but strong. I was nothing to you. Without you, I can finally be myself again. Detective Harmon nodded at me. With this evidence, you should recover most of the funds, and he won't be able to hurt anyone else. For the first time in days, I exhaled. It wasn't over, but I had won the first battle. The house felt different, heavy. The air was thick with tension, and for the first time I realized just how deep Derek's manipulation had gone. My sister, Olivia, sat at the kitchen table, pale, staring at her hands like she didn't even recognize them. I went to her, gently placing my hand on hers. Olivia, look at me. You're safe now, her voice trembled. I didn't know how bad it was. I thought he loved me, that I couldn't live without him. I squeezed her hand. You can live without him, and you will. You deserve better than fear. Meanwhile, Derek was being taken out by the officers, his smug face replaced by shock and disbelief. I couldn't help but feel a small spark of satisfaction. Karma wasn't instant, but it had arrived. That night, Emma and I stayed up in the living room, talking strategy. You need to cover your tracks for business, Madison, she said. Accounts, clients, everything. He won't stop if he sees an opening. I nodded, knowing she was right. I pulled out my laptop. Despite the theft, I had backups. My store's finances, my designs, client info, everything meticulously saved. But I had learned a hard lesson. Trust was precious, and some people would exploit it without hesitation. The next morning, I went through every bank statement, every transaction. Derek hadn't just stolen money, he had planned it. Late-night logins, misdirection, even Olivia's obliviousness. Everything calculated. My blood boiled. "Madison," Olivia's voice broke me from my thoughts. Do you think I can rebuild too?" I smiled softly. "Of course. Step 1, forgive yourself for being tricked. Step 2, take back control. Step 3, never let anyone intimidate you again." We spent hours reviewing the situation. I contacted the bank's fraud department, gave Detective Harmon a full list of everything I knew, and made sure Derek couldn't touch another dime. Slowly, I began to feel hope. Real, tangible hope, but the family, that was a harder battle. Some relatives blamed me, some blamed Olivia, some stayed silent. But I realized something important. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family isn't always protection, it can be the battlefield. And I wasn't about to fight alone. That evening, I called a virtual meeting with Clara, my business partner. Her voice was shaky at first. "Madison, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault," I reassured her. "We're going to recover, rebuild. The boutique will survive, I promise. But we need to be smarter, safer." Over the next few weeks, we worked tirelessly. We recovered nearly all the stolen funds, thanks to fraud protection and the bank's cooperation. Every day I reminded myself, this wasn't just about money. It was about proving I could protect what I built. And Olivia? She began to shine again. Small victories, a laugh, a shared cup of coffee, helping me design a new jewelry line, reminded me of the sister I once knew. She started taking classes again, rediscovering her independence. Every step forward was a tiny rebellion against the fear Derek had instilled in her. One evening, as we sat in the living room, I said, "You know, you've been brave this whole time. You just didn't see it." Her eyes glistened. "I want to be brave enough to rebuild myself, just like you did with Haven & Co." That hit me harder than anything. It wasn't just my victory. It was ours. A family fractured but slowly healing, learning to stand on our own. And Derek? Court dates were set. Fraud, coercion, identity theft. He was going to pay for everything. But even knowing that, I realized something critical. The real victory wasn't seeing him in cuffs. The real victory was watching Olivia reclaim her life, and knowing I had protected the dream I worked for. By the time the sun set over the lake house, I finally felt at peace. Not completely healed, but stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. The day of Derek's first court appearance, my stomach was a knot of nerves. I never imagined I'd see my sister's husband sitting in a courtroom, facing the consequences of everything he'd done. But here we were. Olivia clung to my arm. "I'm scared," she whispered, voice barely audible. "What if he lies? What if people believe him?" I tightened my grip. "Look at me, Liv, you know the truth." "I know the truth. And the evidence, it's all there. He can't escape it. Not this time." Walking into the courthouse, memories of that night at the lake house flooded me. The smug smile, the "we needed it more than you" line. It fueled me. That venomous arrogance wouldn't get away with it. The courtroom was packed. Family members who had doubted us sat in silence, shifting uncomfortably. Derek walked in, head held high, pretending innocence. His lawyers whispered strategies, but it was too late for illusions. Detective Harmon presented the evidence first. Every transfer, every login attempt, timestamps, IP matches, and the photographs from my security software, all meticulously documented. Derek's face paled, then twisted into panic. His confidence, the one thing he relied on to control others, was cracking. When it was my turn to testify, my hands shook slightly, but my voice was steady. Derek Carter stole from me. He manipulated my sister, my family, and nearly destroyed the business I built from scratch. He believed I would do nothing. That fear would silence me. He was wrong. I described every detail. The late-night logins, the subtle manipulations, the way he'd used Olivia like a shield. Every word hit hard, not just in the courtroom, but in the room of our family who had doubted us. Olivia stood beside me, courage growing with each passing second. "I was afraid for too long," she said, her voice stronger than I expected. "But I'm done being afraid. I'm done letting him control me. And I won't let him take anything from me ever again. The judge listened, then addressed Derek. You have exploited trust, manipulated a family member, and committed premeditated fraud. The evidence is overwhelming. How do you plead? He sputtered, trying to find words, but nothing credible came out. His carefully constructed facade shattered in front of everyone. When the verdict was finally delivered, guilty on all counts, I felt a mix of relief and triumph. Derek would face years behind bars, but more importantly, his control over my sister and me was gone. Walking out of the courthouse, Olivia grabbed my hand. I can breathe again, she said. I can finally live my life. I smiled, feeling the weight of months of fear and betrayal lift. This isn't just about him being punished, I said. It's about us, about reclaiming what's ours. And we did it. Back at Haven & Coer, the boutique felt brighter than ever. Orders were coming in, clients were supportive, and the community rallied behind us. The money loss was almost fully recovered thanks to fraud protection and bank cooperation. But the true victory was much deeper. Our resilience, our bond, our refusal to let betrayal define us. That night, Olivia and I sat in the living room, reviewing designs for a new jewelry collection. She laughed, a full, unguarded laugh that hadn't been there for months. I realized the lake house, the boutique, even the pain Derek caused had brought us closer, stronger, wiser. I looked at her and said softly, "This is just the beginning. We've survived the worst. Now we thrive," Olivia nodded, smiling, "and we'll do it together." The camera of my mind, the one I imagined for my audience, flashed images of our triumph. This wasn't just a story of theft. It was a story of courage, of standing up when the odds were stacked against you, and of protecting what you love from those who would destroy it. Weeks passed, but the tension that had gripped our family began to ease. Derek was behind bars, court documents signed, restitution in motion, and for the first time in months, Olivia and I could breathe without fear. The boutique, Haven & Co., was thriving. My second location had officially opened, and orders were pouring in. Clients, friends, and even neighbors had rallied around us, offering support, encouragement, and congratulations. But the real victory wasn't just in numbers, it was in the reclaiming of our lives. Olivia had moved in with me temporarily, reclaiming her space in the world. She'd re-enrolled in school, started part-time work again, and most importantly, laughed freely. Watching her rediscover herself was more powerful than any financial recovery. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows of the boutique, Olivia turned to me while arranging a display of necklaces. "You know," she said softly, "I never realized how strong I could be until you showed me. You weren't just protecting your business. You were protecting me too." I smiled, feeling a lump in my throat. "We protect each other," I said. "That's what family should be, real family. Not someone who manipulates or controls. Not someone who pretends love while taking everything. Real family lifts you up." We spent the afternoon planning a charity event, partly to celebrate our reopening, partly to give back to the community that had supported us through this nightmare. Every detail, every design, every client interaction felt purposeful. It wasn't just survival, it was flourishing. The lake house, once the stage of betrayal, became a symbol of our resilience. We returned not for a reunion, but for restoration. With cousins and relatives who had chosen loyalty and love over selfishness, we cleaned, painted, and repaired. Every brushstroke, every repair was a statement. We were taking back our lives. One evening, as we lit candles around the refurbished deck, Olivia whispered, "I feel free. For the first time in so long, free." I nodded, feeling the same. "And you will stay free, because now you know your strength, and I know ours, together." The months that followed were a quiet triumph. Derek's influence was gone. Olivia flourished in school and her work. Haven & Co. became a name recognized for resilience, ethics, and craftsmanship. And me? I learned the most important lesson of all. Trust is earned, courage is chosen, and betrayal does not define you. How you respond does. I often look back to that Friday afternoon at the lake house, the laughter, The hugs, the tension, the betrayal, and I realized it was all a turning point. A test of everything I had built, everything I believed in. As I locked up the boutique one evening, I turned to Olivia and smiled. "You know," I said, "we didn't just survive. We built something stronger than ever." She smiled back, eyes shining. "We did, and we'll keep building. Together." That's when I realized the final truth. Money can be stolen, trust can be broken, but courage, love, and resilience, no one can ever take that away. To anyone watching, anyone who's ever felt betrayed or taken for granted, I say this: stand up. Protect what you've built. Protect yourself. Because the moment you refuse to be a victim, that's when your power begins. And from that day forward, Madison Hayes and her sister Olivia would never let anyone threaten their dreams again.